I still remember on our first day in Kuwait, when during the orientation, when we were brought to the theater, and they started introducing like faculty, and I was just sitting there and I just listening how many people work outside the classroom. So they still work at school, but they're not teachers. They are coaches, they're support, they're tech, IT, they're coordinators, administrators. And I was just telling Yana, like I said, Yana, this is the school where we can actually, still be in the classroom, but we can do much more things than just being in a classroom. So yeah, it was just, we didn't have the plan. Like, I think we were too young to have a plan. Sure. We were just, oh, okay, there's an opportunity, let's take it. So that was our journey.
All right, everyone. We are super grateful to have our special guest on the show, Dr. Evgenii Permiakov. He's originally from Russia. Now, let me tell the story. Okay. He's originally from Russia. Okay. We had the opportunity to connect. Him and his wife both were teachers working with me in the Middle East. And now him and his wife are living in South Korea, and they're working as a teaching couple in South Korea. So I am super grateful that Dr. Evgenii is coming on the show today to share his journey with our viewers and our listeners. Dr. Evgenii, thank you so much, my brother, for coming on the show. What's going on in your life and in your family and your K12 career right now?
Sure, Dr. Willis. Thanks for having me on the show. It's always a great pleasure chatting with you. And, like you said, our friendship goes as far as Middle East, Kuwait. We're not even there any longer, but we still catch up.
Yeah, for sure.
You're right. So we are right now, and my wife and I and two of our kids are in Republic of Korea, South Korea.
Okay.
And we work at Korea International School. It's one of the largest international schools in the country. I'm an educational technology coach school-wide, and my wife is an elementary school counselor.
Wow, that's cool. How many students are in that school?
Roughly 12 of 1,300 students.
Wow, that's pretty big for an international school. How long have y'all been there?
This is our second year, and we've just signed a contract to stay here for another year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And again, I remember when I first met you and your wife, y'all didn't have any children. That's how far back we go. Like, there were no children. It was just you and Yana. And so now tell me about your growing family.
Yeah, you're right. So actually our first kid was supposed to be born in Kuwait. It was that close to be born in Kuwait. Mm-hmm. But because his name is Mark, he's now almost 5. So his birthday, the due date was supposed to be in September.
Okay.
That would mean us staying in Kuwait during the entire summer. And for someone like you who have been in the country, you know how dreadful the summer could be.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So we were looking for options, and we found a good hospital in our home country in Russia, and he was born there. And then we traveled back with him. Our second son, Nick, was born here in Korea. So in his passport, he actually has, country of birth, South Korea, and it's gonna stick with him for the rest of his life.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Mark is now a pre-K kid. He goes to the school where we work at, and Nikita, or Nick. So his full name is Nikita, and for short international name is Nick. He goes to the Korean nursery until he turns 3, where he's eligible to join our school as a pre-K.
That's awesome, man. So yeah, I am, and I haven't had the privilege of meeting your amazing 2 young men, but yeah, I'm sure they're going to be just a chip off the old block, like your dad, Dr. Evgenii. And I just have fond memories, man. I remember you reached out to me, and full disclosure, I was the principal at the school that we worked at, and Dr. Evgenii first started off as a teacher, and then he moved up and was doing technology for not just the elementary school where I was the principal, but the entire organization. So he just really bloomed in that area and in that school. But I remember we would actually have these like mentor meetups, meet
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
weekends,
we did.
meet at IHOP, and
IHOP, yep.
yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, and those were the good old days. But I'm very grateful for our friendship, and I'm grateful for the fact that we have kept in touch, even though, I mean, wow, you've been in 2 different countries since then, and it's been, almost 5 years since we worked together. So very grateful for the friendship and the relationship. And, I've always said that people come into your life for a season or a lifetime, and I just look at you and Yana as lifelong friends, and very grateful.
Yeah, same here, Dr. Williams.
Yeah,
It's
so
same
good.
here.
So good. So anyway, yeah, one of the things that I've done with this show is I feel like the K12 profession is the greatest profession in the world. And I feel like we're the profession that makes all other professions possible. Do you feel the same way, Dr. Evgenii?
Somewhat like that.
Yeah.
Working in big international schools, you definitely make a difference in students' life. Though sometimes you do realize that these kids, most of the time, they're coming from very privileged and well-off families.
Sure, that's true.
To pay for international school tuition, you need to be well off. There's no way a regular family can afford that. In Korea, for example, to be eligible to go to international school, you should either have a foreign passport, or B, you should have lived outside the country for 3 or 4 years. Wow. In addition to outrageous tuitions. So the point I'm saying that is, yes, we make a difference, but even if we fail to make a difference, I guess those kids, yes, they're going to be all right. I mean, we add icing on the cake for sure. Yeah. But it's different. For example, when you work in a public school in the United States, where if you not going to make a difference, nobody will for these kids. But in our case, you definitely make a difference. But the difference is whether they will go to the Ivy League college or, tier 2. That's the difference you're going to make.
That is so true. That is so true, and I'm so grateful I had that experience in the Middle East to, work in a very privileged school, because all of my career up to that point was in public schools, like you said. And so to have that opportunity to see how, for lack of a better term, how the other side lived, it was eye-opening for me. And I've always had this, I actually created this philosophy about that, the 80-20 rule. I feel like 80% of those students that you're talking about in these international schools are going to be fine. I don't care who their teacher is. I don't care who their administrator is. They're going to be fine. 80% of them, right? Yeah. And that 20% really need us and, need good administrators and whatnot. Whereas in a public setting, 80% of those students aren't going to be okay if they don't have a phenomenal teacher in the classroom, phenomenal leaders, running the school. And those 20% are going to be okay. So, yeah, I just think it kind of flips, when you go to the international setting. But also, the fact that you are originally from Russia, did you feel like there was a need in terms of being able to take care of your family and having the kind of life and lifestyle that you want to have that made you really look at the route of, working abroad and teaching in other countries?
Listen, it wasn't that pragmatic when we started. Okay. So we started it back in 2013, and our first job in rural China, really in the suburbs of Dongguan in southern China, was just let's go. My wife and I just say, let's go for, a year, just, internship, we started as teachers of English as a foreign language.
Oh, okay.
And so it was when we got there, then we realized that, people actually make a career out of that.
Oh, okay.
It was then when we realized, it could not just be a one-off thing. We could actually grow and become administrators, and there are so many other things you can do. And then, so we started pursuing our teaching certificates and other things, because before that, we were just English tutors working in English summer camps back in Russia. But it was in China where it was like, okay, so it actually can be a pretty good lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And as we moved up the tier of international schools, we started in a really small local school. Then we went up to Shanghai, and then from Shanghai we went to Kuwait. Okay. And it was in Kuwait when I still remember that, and I think it partially answers your question. I still remember on our first day in Kuwait, during the orientation, when we were brought to the theater, and they started introducing faculty. Yeah. And I was just sitting there and I just listening how many people work outside the classroom. So they still work at school, but they're not teachers. They are coaches, they're support, they're tech, IT, they're coordinators, administrators. And I was just telling Yana, I said, Yana, this is the school where we can actually still be in the classroom, but we can do much more things than just being in a classroom. So yeah, it was just, we didn't have the plan. Like, I think we were too young to have a plan. Sure. We were just, okay, there's an opportunity. Let's take it. So that was our journey. Now we are more pragmatic and, analytical about it.
Yeah.
But before that, it was just, that sounds like fun. Let's do it. We didn't have kids. We didn't have any student loans to pay off. It was just, teaching and traveling, really.
Well, that's really cool. Yeah, you're right. And I think not only did you and your wife recognize that, y'all seized it. Like, it was like, okay, we're teachers now, but we're not going to say teachers, right? And so can you kind of share with our viewers, like, how did that look? I mean, you got to Kuwait. Both of you guys were teaching in the classroom. I think, you were teaching third grade?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Yeah. And what was Yana teaching? First or kindergarten or something like that?
Second.
No, not kindergarten. Second?
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all were second and third grade teachers, but y'all didn't stay second and third grade teachers. What was the journey like? Yeah, what was the journey like?
Yeah, it was quite fun. Again, it was not it's funny how now when we reflect on things that happened to us, we were not intentional on that at all. Like, it was in the middle of teacher preparation program, and they were giving us all this tech. I mean, I'm just speaking on my behalf now, and then I'll talk a bit about Yana. Sure. And they were just giving us all these tech tools that we can try in a classroom, like, optional things. And here I was in a school with our iPad card, and I just took those applications, all the technology that we were offered, and I just started implemented it right away. And I was under the impression that everybody's doing that. I thought, well, you have this technology, you have school paying for, subscriptions. Yeah. Why not? I mean, it makes your life easier. Kids enjoy that. Their learning is improved. And I was under the impression that everybody's doing that. And then one day I had the official observation. Do you remember the vice principal, Miss Brown, I think? Jessica Brown?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm giving her half of the credit. So she was in the classroom. I was just doing I didn't do anything spectacular. It wasn't like a speed run. I was just doing things that I've been doing for a long time. And she came up to me and said, Evgenii, what have you done with technology? Like, the way it is so naturally and effortlessly integrated into a class, other teachers should do that, or should see that. And she suggested a really wonderful idea. She said, let's make your classroom a model classroom.
Classroom, that's right.
For model classroom, yeah. And then you jump on board and said, that's a wonderful idea. And we set up a schedule where teachers would come and just observe the class. And then at some point, you and I had a discussion at IHOP where you said, Evgenii, like, there is like a place for you. There's a niche for you where you can actually help integrate technology for other teachers, not in IT, because before that we had IT personnel who would, come in and fix the printer or fix the internet, but actually help teachers integrate all the wonderful things we had. And you said, well, start looking on the internet. And actually, this is the time when I realized, there's actually a job, technology integration specialist. Yeah. I didn't know that. It was not intentional. I thought, okay, this sounds like a cool job. You get to help. I was doing that already, but on my, when I didn't have classes, I would step into other teachers. And then, before I knew it, a position became available in both middle school and high school for technology integration specialist. And it was so odd, Dr. Williams, like, the person who left in middle school, she had been at the school for 15 or 16 years.
Yep.
And so she just left because there was a leadership change and she wasn't happy. And I applied and I got it because, you gave me opportunity to present on multiple occasions to elementary school faculty. And it was just, I was just happy and excited about all the tools, and some teachers had no clue how to use them, and I was happy to help them. And this is how I become a tech coach. And I've been doing this job ever since, expanding my repertoire of skills. Now I work school-wide. I help with not only in the classroom, I help with systems as well. I help with, Google Workspace, help with data protection and other things related to technology. But my skill and range of responsibilities have expanded since then. Yeah, but this is my wild journey, how it all started. And now I'm doing the same job here in Korea.
Wow, that's super powerful. And I just have to say, man, you were a phenomenal teacher. Like, obviously, you're not in the classroom anymore, but take it from me, guys. I visited Dr. Evgenii's classroom. he wasn't even Dr. Evgenii then. I mean, he's just blossomed so much. But I remember visiting his classroom and man, being so like saying, man, if I was a kid, I'd want to be in this classroom. Like, I mean, it was just so effortlessly the way you use clickers. And I mean, you was just so good with those kids. And those kids loved being in your classroom. So yeah, man, you just really were like a fish in water. You were just very good with presenting, and you had no problem growing and no problem learning new things and no problem presenting. And just like you said, just getting more proficient in your craft and taking advantage of professional learning and professional growth opportunities. And I think that's really good. And I know that there's people out there that are watching that maybe they are teaching right now and they're thinking that there's not other options available. Like there's so many things that are needed, so many positions that are needed to run an effective school, an effective organization. And as long as you're willing to learn and grow, then you can easily pivot if you're in the classroom into some of those positions. So you're definitely a great example of that. But can you share a little bit about, and I would love to have Yana on the show, on our own show episode, but can you kind of share about what she did? It wasn't just you. I mean, you were a teacher, but then Yana, she was a teacher as well. What was her path a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, her path was somewhat similar to mine. So she joined the school in Kuwait as a grade 2 teacher. We actually both applied for the third grade positions, but they didn't put us in the same grade level. So she was there, and her focus has always been on social emotional learning and, you know, building soft skills. And she devoted a lot of time in her classroom, like circle time and the time when she wasn't concentrated on content area on those areas.
Right.
And then when the position became open for the school counselor, for elementary school counselor, I approached her. I read through the job description. I said, Yana, isn't that what you're already doing with your kids? Like, you know, all those things, you know, helping skills, build resilience, build, you know, learning habits, helping build soft skills. And she said, yeah, kind of, this is what I do in the classroom. And I said, why don't you apply for this position? And she was so hesitant to do that. So it took you and me.
Yes.
So I always blame you for her becoming a counselor, because I remember we would spend like hours in your office just saying, Yana, this is a really good step for you. You know, you're already doing that. You know, you're good with the kids. You know, you have this, you know, affinity for, you know, counseling. You already doing this in your classroom. And so she applied, and she started doing a program with Lehigh University, the counseling program certification first, but now a few years later, she completed, now she's got master's. But yeah, so again, it was not entirely intentional. It just came out of the place of pure interest and intent and, you know, just out of pure pleasure to integrate those things into the classroom, not just teaching content, but also help kids become more empathetic, you know, problem solving, dealing with conflicts, all those things. And then when she became a counselor, that became her full-time job. And ever since then, she's worked at a middle school counselor, and now she's back to elementary school counseling as well.
Awesome. That's very good. Yeah, man, you guys are a perfect example of growing where you planted. I mean, y'all were in China first and y'all grew there. And like you said, then you moved to Kuwait and y'all continue to not only teach, but also learn other skills, get more certifications, get higher degrees. And now, you know, like you said, Yana has her master's degree in counseling. And you are not Mr. Evgenii, you are Dr. Evgenii. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, a journey again comes back to Dr. Williams. So one day I remember sitting in the office and he asked me, like, Mr. Evgenii, how old are you? And so, yeah, I was 29. And I remember you said something about if I were your age and someone had told me that I could finish, you know, doctorate, I would be so grateful. And you should do that. And you said, no matter like the time is going to pass, but you still, and after 3 years, you either be Mr. Evgenii or you're going to be Dr. Evgenii.
Yeah.
And like my attitude to life, if I can do it, I'm going to do that. So I went home, I did some homework. You gave me some criteria in terms of the credit hours the program should have. So I went home, look at some of the universities, run them by you. Yeah. And then you helped me write the letter of intent. Then he gave me a reference, and then 3 years later, I was defending my thesis successfully, and I became Dr. Evgenii Permiakov successfully. So my degree is in administration and leadership. So far, I can't say I haven't used this degree. So I'm not really a teacher, but I'm not really an administrator, but I do have administrative capacity for decision making and, a lot more than you and a teacher. So that degree definitely helped me practically, but also in terms of career growth, like when there's an opportunity, it's going to be helpful because I do have a skill set and theoretical knowledge and frameworks for administrative position. No, I mean, the journey was super helpful. And so I did my doctoral degree with Carson-Newman in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's been one of the toughest times of my life because I have a newborn kid and the COVID started as well. And I remember on some of the first days I said, oh, what did I get myself into? I was actually in the hospital and my kid was born and I had a key assignment, due. And then I remembered what you said, like 3 years or 4 years going to pass, like regardless of whether you want it or not. The time is ticking. I mean, you cannot control that. The only thing you can control is whether you willing to invest the time and effort and become Dr. Evgenii or not.
There it is.
And like you said, the time has passed. Yes, we had challenging times. Yeah, I had times where I remember I would take my car to the service and I would sit somewhere in the waiting area, typing out my assignment or sitting at the airport or on the plane or, there were challenging times. Sure. I'll give you that. But I'm Dr. Evgenii, and that's such a valuable lesson. Like the pain is temporary, but the quitting lasts forever.
100%.
And so just get through that, understand that the time is going to pass and all that matters is what you're going to be after that.
Absolutely.
So again, thank you so much for putting me on this path. And I cannot be more grateful for, nudging me because I was also hesitant. I was like, I'm too young. I mean, who am I? Or like, I'm just a teacher from Russia. Who am I to complete a doctoral program from the States? And, you just said, go for it. And sometimes this is what it takes. This is what it takes. Someone to tell you, you can do it. You actually can.
Absolutely.
And you have this gift, and I've seen it many times, not only with us, but I've seen with other people, how you have this gift inspiring people to move on, believing in them. And that's sometimes what it takes, just someone to believe in you.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. But, I've always believed in that Chinese proverb that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Like you said, I mean, whether it's you and your wife or whoever this worked for me in my career as a school leader, I've given advice like this a lot. But, I will be honest, man, like you and your wife, like, oh my God, y'all were just like, y'all just spread y'all wings and y'all flew with it. The end result is, like you said, you are Dr. Evgenii, and no one can take that away from you. And it has utility for you. It's already had utility for you. I'll give you a funny story, what you were saying about wondering whether or not it's really, you've been able to use it. I know when I interviewed and got the job in Kuwait, later on, I was told that one of the main reasons that they hired me was because I was Dr. Joseph. You know what I mean? They never told me that in the interview, right? But, it's good to have those kind of people that have those advanced degrees on your leadership team. So I can tell you that it definitely is something that catches people's eye when they see your resume and they see, your CV, that, hey, you are Dr. Evgenii. And you went through that. And I like what you said, like it wasn't easy. You went through that pain to get to that actual goal. And, people recognize that and they appreciate that, and you get rewarded for that. And whenever you interview, there's always a ranking system, and having a doctorate is extra points. You know what I mean? So, So no, that's really good that you accomplished that. And like you said, you accomplished it at a young age. Like this degree is going to have so many benefits for you for years and years and years to come. So kudos to you, my friend. Kudos to you and your wife. So what does the future hold? I mean, obviously we've known each other since 2017 and now we're in 2024. But let's say, and we know this isn't going to happen, but let's say that we didn't see each other or talk to each other for the next 5 years. Where is Dr. Evgenii in 2029? 5 years from now is 2029. Your sons are at that point 9 and 5. So where are you at, man?
Yeah. I can't imagine that. I mean, I cannot imagine my kids being old enough, maybe they're arguing with me right now already. Listen, 5 years from now, well, Yana and I have been talking about that. Like, where are we going with that? I mean, it looks like, are we locked into the international teaching And when we start thinking about an alternative to that, we can't find any really, because I mean, teaching internationally, it's such a unique job. I'm right now, I can confidently say it's such a unique lifestyle. So, and it's really, I mean, teaching itself is unique. I mean, you have, you have 2 years. You have academic year and you have a calendar year. I mean, you have summer breaks, you have winter breaks. I mean, it's such a unique job.
Sure.
With kids, this job becomes even more unique because now your kids go to the same school. I mean, in international school setting. Now the school is just, it's more than just job for you. It's the organization that provides housing for you. It provides, facilities for your kids to use. It provides schooling for your kids. So it becomes it plays such a huge role. And when we think about, what if we take it away? What if we take international school and now we have to fill this huge void, really? And that's a bit scary. And this is where we understand that we kind of become dependent on this lifestyle. That's true. So coming to and it's a good and a bad thing. I mean, it's a blessing on one hand, but on the other hand, when you think about, can I do something else? Maybe I want to do something else. Sure. And you find yourself hard pressed to think, what else can I do where I can enjoy the same benefits, because you can't. This is such a unique job and lifestyle. So having said that, I think that for the nearest future, at least until our kids are old enough to go to university, I think we're locked into the international school, because I see the benefits, especially for, English is our second language. Sure. And seeing my kid, who's now 4.5, speaking English and being able to understand that's like something this process for me, because I started learning English when I was in 5th grade. I was in 5th grade when I started learning English as a second language 2 times a week. And it took me, I'm still learning. But it will never become my first language. I still need to look up some words. I need to work on my grammar, vocabulary. But for them, I think it's a gift. And if we can give them this gift, if they can graduate and be able to speak English and Russian at the same time as their 2, mother tongues, not mother tongues, bilingual. If they're bilingual, truly bilingual, I think it's going to be a huge gift for them, a gift that I won't be able to give to them if we decide to go back to our home country. So 5 years from now, international, I would like to move up to an ed tech director. Okay. Educational technology director or IT director. So I'm now working on my Google administrator certification. I've completed my data protection training. So I'm stepping up my game into that to move up. But yeah, the short answer, it's very likely that in 5 year time, you will either see me here, not maybe here, maybe elsewhere, international school, maybe not international school, maybe a public school setting somewhere in a different country.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you have options. And I've always said that the more education you get, the more options you have. I was even thinking about your skill set. Like, I'm in Seattle, Washington, and Seattle is just home to so many phenomenal Fortune 500 companies. I think about Amazon. I think about Starbucks. I think about Microsoft. Google has a big footprint here. Facebook has a big footprint here. And, I was even looking on some of the jobs that are out here, and so many, with, all this going on with ChatGPT and all that, AI, I just feel like, man, the jobs are paying big bucks, man. Like 200, 300, 400K a year to be in those positions if you have those skills, if you have those tech skills. So, that's even something I could see you potentially getting into, because you just bring so many skills. It's not even just about the skills. You also have the education, you have the doctorate degree. You have the ability to network and communicate really well and present real well. That's one benefit of being a teacher. And when you're in these other corporate settings, part of that is the being able to present and things of that nature. So yeah, man, I just think the future's bright for you, man. There's so many options for you. And I agree with you. I was only on the international circuit for 2 years, but it can become addictive real quick. You know what I'm saying? And you get used to the lifestyle, you get used to your summers, you get used to not having to worry about tuition for your kids. And that becomes almost like a second family, because you're growing up and you're going to school with kids that are in the same school with you, and teachers and all that. So it's a really good thing. And you're right. There's nothing wrong with continuing to do that, but there's also a lot of other options out there, because I feel like with AI, it's already revolutionizing the world and how we live our life. And I think people like yourself that already have that solid foundation technology wise anyway, the sky's the limit. So who knows where you will be, my friend. So there's just a lot of opportunities out there for you. And I think it's a good lesson for people that are watching the show. Like at the end of the day, you have to be a lifelong learner. You could have you and Yana could have come to not even Kuwait. Y'all could have stayed in China and said, hey, we got a good life here. Let's just continue to be a teacher and we're good. Yeah. Right.
And you're right. And and I mean, you've met some people even back in Kuwait. Like sometimes you meet teachers who've had the same position for 10, 15, 20 years. And I cannot imagine that. Like I understand there are types of people, and I'm not blaming, I'm not judging. It's just that for me, it's so alien to, like, I cannot imagine being in the same classroom doing the same thing for 15 or 20 years. And we need people. I mean, schools need people like that. Schools need, consistency, but it's not me. Yeah. And being lifelong learner, that's for sure, because everything is changing. I mean, again, the only thing that doesn't change is the fact that everything changes, right? Like, and with technology, with generative AI and everything that is happening right now, I mean, if you stop, you're done. You can't, like, if you want, like, even you've got to move on. You've got to, you've got to learn. You've got to see what's out there. It's essential, really.
Absolutely. That's so true. So true. Yeah. Well, man, it's really cool, man. I'm just happy for you, man. I'm happy with where you are in your life right now. And I'm so grateful that we have stayed connected. But, there's a lot of people out there that are watching right now. Maybe they're living in, your part of the world right now, Asia, Europe, the Middle East. Maybe they're watching from the United States. I have a lot of people that watch this show from the United States. If they're thinking about being international educators like you and your wife, what advice would you give them?
Give it a try. I mean, we've had here in our school, we've had so many people for whom this became their first international job, and they're still here 10 years after that.
Wow.
Or 15 years after that. Yeah.
Okay.
So there are agencies there who will help you a lot. I mean, to name the few, there are search associates, there's international school services, there are local fairs as well. I mean, like I said before, this lifestyle has its own benefits, financial benefit to begin with. Like most of the people don't come overseas just to, explore, other cultures. There's also a financial component attached to that, in addition to other benefits. But there's also a lot of a price you need to pay because you live abroad, you live away from your friends, from your family. Well, I mean, you can bring your family with you, but I mean, your immediate family is here. And just culturally, language wise, for example, back in Kuwait, it wasn't such a problem because everybody speaks English. It's such a huge expatriate community. Coming here to Korea, there's no way. I mean, I need to use a translator. You feel disconnected from the life because of the language barrier. I mean, I can read characters, I can speak a little bit of Korean, but I know we're not going to stay here for, I mean, I don't have a Korean wife. I mean, I don't have, we're going to stay here. I can learn language, but I'm not really motivated to be invested because the nature of international teaching is that you travel, you stay in one place, then you get a little bit, So my advice would be, it's totally worth it. Teachers are valued in international school, especially teachers who are good in their craft, who are hardworking, who are professional. They're outstanding schools in the world. And I've talked, like, every time I talk to a family, there's so many different reasons people give to me. Some family would say, we're here for our kids because we were not happy with the level of education in our home country, whether it is United States or Canada or, South Africa. So they come to international schools because, think about it, like, especially if you have a family, when you go to international school, most international schools, so maybe all international schools, will give you free tuition. And here you have basically your children attending international school where tuitions can be as high as 40, 50 $100,000 a year. I mean, it's for high school specifically. So you have your kids enjoying all the benefits that their peers enjoy, but they don't pay a penny. So there are couples out there who, and maybe we would be one of those couples, who would stay in international teaching until our kids graduate, because it's a high quality education really for the kids. If you get,
really is.
With all the sports programs and extracurricular activities and all the funding and everything, because international schools, most of the time, if not all the time, they're well supplied. And Dr. Joseph, you've worked in Kuwait, and this is just one example how there's rarely a problem with where there's not enough finance to buy textbooks or technology or you name it. So
the exposure is crazy. The exposure is crazy. I know that, my last year there, we took a group of high school students to Italy for their senior trip.
Yes.
Italy and Switzerland. And I'm not just talking about one city in Italy. We flew into Rome and we flew out of Milan. You know what I mean? Yep. And that was the entire senior class. That's not happening in the United States. That's not happening at a regular public school in any, that's going to happen in a very, like you said, very affluent international school. So that's really good advice, man. I think that,
just to reiterate one more time, it's an exceptional, teaching international, it's an exceptional opportunity with its exceptional prices you pay. That's how it summarize. It's not just bells and whistles. No, there's some times when you feel like I miss family, I miss my local. So, but for some people it works. Some people say, well, I'm ready to give up my passport and just live my life internationally. Some people say it's not for me and they go back and media sometimes. I know for me and my family, we had to go back. We needed to go back, and truthfully, I'm glad we did. I mean, I'm not saying that I won't ever work abroad internationally. I really enjoyed my time in the Middle East. But I think if my kids had been much younger, we probably would have stayed a lot longer. Because, now even if I told him my son's going to high school next year, there's no way he's moving anywhere, not without a fight, right? Like he's getting ready to be a high schooler next year. And, he's got a group of friends that, he's been ever since elementary at this point, and he wants to stay with those young people until he graduates. And same thing with my daughter. But I do feel like it's a really good opportunity. I like what you said, try it. You don't know, you'll have some that will do it 2 or 3 years like myself, and then they'll come back to their home country, and you have some that'll do it for 10, 15, 20 years, right? Absolutely.
So, I think there's a place for anyone that fits either one of those narratives. If you come for a couple of years and you go back, it's a great experience. No one can take that away from you. If you come and you stay for 20 years and your kids end up graduating from an international school, then that's really cool as well, so I think it's wonderful. But also I would be remiss if I don't bring up the fact that you also have enough time with everything you got going on, being over a school tech program, you're married, you have 2 young kids. You also have your own YouTube channel. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So it all started in China, or in our first year in Kuwait, where I had this idea of teaching travel. So I've always been interested in filmmaking and videography and vlogging. So when we got to Kuwait, actually before we got to Kuwait, I couldn't find anything on the internet about Kuwait. I couldn't find a vlog. So when I got there, I started my vlog. So I would take my GoPro camera and I would vlog about, this is our grocery. This is what the seaside looks in Kuwait. That's it. I was just taking my camera vlog, and this is what my classroom looks like. And people really like that. So they found my style amusing. And then I learned how to fly the drone. So I included drone footage. And then it gradually grew into a small community really of people. And then at some point when I was actually doing technology, someone asked me for tutorials, you're using the iXL. How do we do that? And instead of going to each classroom, back then I was still a teacher, I thought I would just record my screencast. I would just record my screen, how I do things, and then post it on the YouTube for these teachers, and I'll share the link with them. And then what I found the next day or the week after that, there were thousands other people across the world who found this tutorial helpful. And again, sometimes I go back to that clip, and it was one of those examples where I was not intentional. It was recorded without any microphones, nothing. There was no script. It was just my screen recording, probably not even trimmed from beginning to end. And so I thought, wow, it must be must be helpful. And so I started recorded tutorials for what I do in the classroom with the technology, how to use clickers, how to use Minecraft, how to use Google Classroom. And so before you know it, I had a couple of tutorials on my channel. I never knew why I did that. I had a feeling I need to do that. And I was doing them partially for the school, partially for teachers around the world. And so a thing like COVID started in early 2020.
Yeah.
And schools went virtual. And this is where my channel just exploded. Like, again, unintentional consequence. It wasn't something I was in charge of. The people just needed, it was just the right remedy for the cause. And so I realized that I should ramp up my efforts, and I started doing tutorials on Zoom, on virtual learning, how to do those things. And this is how my channel just grew. Right now, I have almost 40,000 subscribers.
Wow.
I made over maybe 13 or 14,000 US dollars over the lifetime in ad revenue.
That's awesome, man.
And and at some point, I don't know if should I talk more about YouTube?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then at some point, I started getting so many emails from, different companies who wanted to partner with me, who wanted me to advertise their products on the channel, because it's one of the, ad revenue is only one source of revenue you can make on YouTube. Other revenues is where you have companies like sponsorships, affiliate marketing as well. Mm-hmm. I did a couple of them, but then I realized that this is not what I started this for. I did not start my YouTube channel to make money. It wasn't a money-making machine. It was nice benefit, having that, but it was not intentional.
Sure.
And then I started doing my doctoral degree at the time. And so every time I got these emails, I would say, listen, I'm really committed to my doctoral. Please get back to me later in 3 years. And I still have my folder in my Gmail with all the collaborations. There are maybe like 100 of emails there.
Wow.
But what I came to realize that you can, I had a choice, and I think still have a choice to become a full-time YouTuber if I want to. Yeah. But with 2 kids growing up and, life internationally, it's time consuming, it's time demanding. So I still post on my channel. I just posted VR. Right now, I'm exploring virtual reality in education and how it can enhance learning. I still do post. I'm still active on YouTube. I do Tech Tuesdays every Tuesday for my school. But it's it doesn't have a lot of views because previously, like 2 or 3 years ago, when I saw this growth, I thought, I should do that. I created the search optimized titles and thumbnails. I was playing the game. I was playing the algorithm, and I was getting those views, but then I realized, listen, it doesn't give me the kick. It's not that I didn't enjoy the benefits, but I just realized it takes time and effort to continuously. Dr. Williams, you doing the stuff on the YouTube, it's time consuming, even though you can. Yeah, even though you can have people, help you out, you can, have, some people working for you, but even with that, it is time consuming. Yeah. And I didn't have time and energy for that. Although I think YouTube is a wonderful platform, and I still post, I still enjoy, podcasting, commentating, producing stuff, but just as a hobby, not as a sidekick.
Yeah, I look at it more like that as well. I'm very active, and I love doing these shows. And I was like you, I was doing them, and I did it for the culture. I did it for, educators all around the world, but I got just as much out of it. I'm getting a lot out of it, just, reconnecting with you and having you on this show. So, to me, it's more a labor of love than trying to make some money out of it. If if that's an unintended consequence or benefit, then I'll take it. Mm-hmm. It's not the intention, right? The intention is not there to monetize, but I'll take it. I'm not going to turn it down. But also, if it gets me out of my lane that I want to be in for my life and my life path, then I'm like you. I'm not going to totally give up what I'm really doing and what I'm really focused on to do that. It's more of a hobby. It's more of a labor of love. And I love doing it. I love just connecting with educators all around the world. I'm talking to you, and you're in South Korea, right? We're totally different time zones. So it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a journey. You learn so many things as you do YouTube. You get to meet people, and most importantly, you help others. Yes. Like someone, you've got views, you've got 100,000 views on some of the video clips, and believe it or not, there will be people who you genuinely help or answer their question. And yes, I can go to work and earn some money, but genuinely helping somebody, this sense of almost like volunteering adds great value to your life as well. I mean, it's been a study where volunteering and doing something without financial reward is as good as eating a fresh fruit or, consuming healthy food. Attitude of gratitude, this unconditional giving something, it is also, I mean, it gives some sincere pleasure as well. The one that you cannot just get by going to work and get paid.
Yeah, that I agree. I agree totally. I try to live my life like that. I'm always trying to pour into people. I'm a big believer in paying it forward. I feel like that's what gives me juice, to help other people. And I feel the same. I feel like me and you are kindred spirits in that regard. So yeah, kudos to you, man, for your show. And we'll definitely make sure we put all that information in the show notes so that people can connect with you and check out your channel and subscribe. My son, he's now 14, but I remember even when we were living in Kuwait, he was the one that really kind of told me about, he's like, yeah, I'm following Mr. Evgenii, on his teaching travel. And he was showing me videos that you were doing around Kuwait. I was like, this is really cool. But yeah, so you definitely made an impact for sure. But I'm just really grateful that you came on the show to share your story, to share your journey. And I appreciate you, man. I appreciate our friendship. And, I appreciate you just being so transparent when talking to our audience. But before you leave, Dr. Evgenii, can you please share some parting words of wisdom to our community? Tell us how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Well, listen, I'm active on YouTube. I'm active on Instagram and Twitter. And soon I'm going to be active on LinkedIn as well. So I'm falling behind on that game. So I go by EdTech and then EdTechie. So if you search for EdTech, you'll see me on Twitter, Instagram, and this is where I post my adventures in technology. Right now, like I said, I'm working on virtual reality and what it can and cannot bring in education. Parting words of wisdom. I think one of the trends in my career has been the unintentional consequences of just doing something out of pure pleasure and joy. There's been several times in my career, in my life, where, I just feel somewhere inside that I should do that.
Yeah.
That particular reason, it just brings you joy and enjoyment and fulfillment. And then all the benefits and all those things we care about with our brains and things we, strategize for, they just come naturally.
Yeah.
It's not to say that we shouldn't strategize and do things intentionally, but sometimes, you have this inner voice that, this should be done. And you follow this voice and you have no idea why you're doing that, but you just know you should do that.
Absolutely.
And then after some time, you're like, oh, that's why. Yeah. Like coming to Kuwait, like this conversation would have happened had we gone to Kuwait. And I remember being in China, 2015, and I just had this urge. I want to go to the Middle East.
Wow.
And I'm telling my wife, Yana, I've just had an interview in Kuwait and you're next. She's like, where's Kuwait? Isn't there like, and that back then it was all this Islamic State is in its action. ISIS. Yeah. And we're looking at it's like bordering with Syria, but I just had this like unexplainable like urge to go to the Middle East. I don't know why. I couldn't explain it. Like, why would you go there?
Yeah.
We're going. I mean, yes, we didn't go to a different school first, but we ended up in the place where I met you. I met so many other people who just propelled my career and everything. So just following this, listening to this inner voice is critical, especially now in this time and age where life seems to getting more complex and more complex every single day. This inner voice will never let me astray once.
I love that. Well said, my friend. Yeah, that's great advice. Trust your heart, trust your gut. Trust that inner voice. I love it. Well, once again, my brother, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm just grateful for you just being transparent. It was a great interview, and this won't be the last time that we connect. Thank you.